Hello, y'all. Hey, Coach Lake here. So today we're going to be talking about mental health problems and characteristics of poor mental health. First thing you need to know is the objectives. There's 4 of them. These are things we're going to be covering over for the next couple of weeks. So we're not going to hit all of them today. You're just going to get a taste. So the lesson plan objectives are: number 1, to identify some characteristics of poor mental health. The second is to explain self-defeating behaviors. The third is to identify substance abuse disorders, anxiety disorders, affective disorders, and thought disorders, and how these disorders are treated. And then finally, to be able to describe 3 kinds of eating disorders. But today, we're just going to focus on the first one, on how to identify some characteristics of poor mental health. So, how do behaviors indicate mental health? So the first thing you need to understand is, number 1, this is the normalcy, or like how one defines normal is determined by healthcare professionals. In this case, a psychologist, or numerous psychologists. And a psychologist is someone who studies mental and behavioral characteristics. Most psychologists evaluate mental health by determining the level of normal behavior. So if a person has many abnormal behaviors, that person may not be mentally healthy. So the more abnormal behavior or thinking patterns a person has, the greater the possible risk of mental illness. Okay. So what's another thing that characterizes poor mental health is self-defeating behavior. So what are self-defeating behaviors? A self-defeating behavior, what it does is it blocks a person from reaching his or her own goals. So 3 common forms of self-defeating behaviors are anxiety, some sort of defense mechanism, and or a dysfunctional relationship. So an anxiety disorder, that's one thing that is a self-defeating behavior. Anxiety is a feeling of uneasiness or fearful concern. You feel anxious when you have a sense that something bad will happen. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's just that you have a sense that it will. Sometimes people use drugs to reduce anxiety. Drugs, however, do not get rid of the source of the anxiety. They just make this feeling, the anxiety, go away. One form of anxiety is a phobia, or an irrational fear of something, like crossing bridges, the color green, who knows what. When people have a phobia, they create problems for themselves. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about some defense mechanisms. People use various defense mechanisms to hide anxiety without solving their problems. A defense mechanism is a mental device that people use to protect themselves. The most common defense mechanisms are repression, denial, projection, and displacement. Repression simply means refusing to think about something that upsets you. Okay, so repression is I'm just going to just refusing to think about it. Denial is a conscious refusal to take a threat seriously. So denial is a little bit different than repression. Repression is you're refusing to think about it. Denial is you're just going to refuse to deal with it or to take it seriously. Projection is accusing someone else of your attitudes, feelings, or purposes. It's so-and-so's fault that I'm upset. It's blah, blah, blah is why I got a bet. It's always somebody else's fault. You should all be able to relate to this one. Displacement or shifting is displacement or shifting an emotion from its real object to a safer or immediate one. Okay, and then dysfunctional relationships that are full of conflict or that do not satisfy are called dysfunctional. The most common form of dysfunction in a relationship is poor communication. Another common problem in dysfunctional relationships has to do with low self-esteem and lack of confidence. All right, so short and sweet. We're about 4 minutes and 30 seconds in. Make sure you do the Google form so that you can get a grade. Have a great week. Coach Lake, peace out, Girl Scout. My wife wanted me to say that.